I know what you're thinking. Why don't I have a uniform commercial code? Thanks for joining us on another episode of Cannabis Industry Lawyer. We got a real good one for you tonight. You want to see the excellent stuff? Just speed on ahead to 7 minutes and 34 seconds. That's when it gets nuts. But until that time, how would marijuana or cannabis be considered as collateral to banks under the Uniform Commercial Code? Maybe you're not aware of the Uniform Commercial Code, but it is voluminous and it arose in 1952. It's actually one of America's best exports to the world of business because many international laws used America's Uniform Commercial Code to start making their own. This is how a lot of business gets done in America, quite literally, and we are going to not be on Article 2, 3, 4, 5, not 1, that's mostly definitions, but Article 9, secured transactions. And if you're like me, you're like, what the fuck is a secured transaction? Well, let me tell you, pal, it's basically like your mortgage or your car payment or anything where there's collateral, and collateral is a special thing. You see, collateral is something that secures the risk to the lending institution that provided you with financing. So, that's why I used cars and your home as examples. Cars and your home, of course, are the ultimate security. There's trillions of dollars of real estate in the United States. There's not trillions of dollars of vehicles in the United States, at least I don't believe there are, but there's clearly billions of dollars of vehicles in the United States, and most people don't have enough money to pay for them in cash. So they use credit, and that is a secured transaction. Of course, we're not talking about the credit cards, we're talking about marijuana as a security interest. So I am a bank. I represent banks, I am not a bank, human, but a bank is going to write a loan for a marijuana business. This happens all the time. Businesses get loans. So if you're watching this in 2022, you're like, so how would I classify marijuana as collateral under the Uniform Commercial Code? This is the video for you, pal. There's many ways to do it. Now the first one has to do with what is the collateral? You see, under the Uniform Commercial Code, there are things, and there can only be one thing at a particular time. How should banks appropriately value and collateralize the marijuana? Now, a lender may take a security interest in basically anything, but now we have to parse what it means to be anything. Sometimes things are fixtures, sometimes they're equipment, sometimes things are inventory, farm products, consumer goods, regular goods, and goods are sometimes defined as things against themselves. And there's commercial tort claims, deposit accounts, general intangibles. The biggest general there is the intangible general, especially considering IP rights. IP rights often become general intangibles. What's an account? Pretty easy. You can pledge your bank account as collateral. What about a healthcare receivable? Little less easy. Now, what about when you're doing business and you're operating as a business? We have to think about how a business operates. If you imagine a car and a car's engine, you can imagine how the car operates. This is the good thing about law. You know what it is. Law requires a lot of thought experiments, so you can do it anywhere. Like in front of a book with learned hand on it, and then your other books, which you wrote a bunch of back when you should have been going to school. But I still went to school. So anyway, let's imagine that business. Now that business has equipment, it's got inventory, it's got accounts receivables, it got various other accounts. It might also have the general intangibles about the IP. Maybe it's got a commercial tort claim. Maybe it also has those healthcare receivables. These are all the different types of collateral. At any given time, they can only be one thing. However, let me remember how I passed this in the bar exam, and it was a professor from Loyola. Can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was hilarious because he would tell you about Farmer Jones's nuts. Now, Farmer Jones's nuts can be various different types of collateral. Let's imagine before his nuts are even planted. Get your mind out of the gutter, everybody. We're talking about Farmer Jones's nuts. So before they were planted, they were what? Are they equipment? Probably not. I mean, this is the stuff that you need to plant into the ground to grow a nut tree. Let's say that's a thing. But it's not really equipment because farm products are defined as anything that's grown or to be grown or growing at the time. So it is probably, to begin, a farm equipment. Now, what if it's from Monsanto and you're buying a specific type of Roundup Ready seed, let's say? Then, is it still going to be a farm product, or is it going to be a general intangible, being a specific patent right? That's why we're going to have to go to the case of Bowman versus Monsanto Co. Oh my gosh, it was a beautiful time for a hip-hop horn if there ever was one, you know? People that are citing laws and cases regarding things do not use hip-hop horns enough. Single-handedly the reason why you lose most summary judgment motions, not enough usage of hip-hop horn. Patent exhaustion. Oh, that's great. So that's a patent exhaustion case. So, let's say the bank has a security interest on all marijuana businesses' stuff. We're talking about Farmer John's nuts. We're going to change it to Farmer John's nuts and cannabis. And so he's got a lien, and by he I mean the man. The man is the bank. Lien on all the stuff. Blanket security interest. What's a security interest? Security interest is what Article 9 covers. That's why you're here. Now that security interest allows that bank to say that is my collateral. And that collateral is all this stuff that the borrower is granted a security interest in. Very often, it includes accounts and general intangibles and consumer goods and regular goods and equipment and fixtures, and sometimes, your general intangibles and your healthcare receivables and your commercial tort claims, all those types of things. The blanket and the commercial tort claims, okay, fine. Not really. Commercial tort claims have to be... Why am I talking about commercial tort claims? This is cannabis. Anyway, so you're the cannabis business, and you start growing the cannabis. That's not a farm product just yet. That is general intangible while it's a seed because you've only bought the patent right to that seed. Wait, hang on. I just remembered. Oh my gosh. Marijuana is the most legitimate cash-only industry, which means that it's an illegitimate industry. You're not allowed to get patent rights for marijuana, unless, of course, you're talking about patent 665307, the patent that was given to the United States by the United States in 2001 that says that cannabis is an antioxidant, an anti-carcinogen, neuroprotectorant, which is great, especially if you knock the old noggin around and as pugilist. Yeah, good for the brain. Still, you should look up patent 663507. Or 6309. Anyway, 2001, United States. They patented it themselves. Oh, good time to plug the book. Good time to plug the book, man, because it's all in here. Satan Smoke. This is the book you can't get. You know what the book you can get is? Let's work on deep focus. I can always cut this because it's garbage. Ah, that's right. The Case of U.S. v. Yerbas. Now, what's the difference between this one and this one? Besides, one is a more boss cover than the other. One of them is the rational basis with bite standard for constitutionality, and the other one has an arcane version of the Fourth Amendment, and by arcane I mean 90 years out of date. Back when it used to matter, man. Back when it used to matter. Privacy was a thing 90 years ago. Not before Zuckerberg. Thank you for watching this on Zuckerberg's pipes, by the way. It's either on Zuckerberg's or Sergey's. And Sergey didn't make YouTube, but he did buy it in 2005. And I know, Larry, I know, man. Sorry for, not giving you props. Let's go back to talking about marijuana as collateral. So, we've gotten through the IP. We've mentioned everybody's in Silicon Valley. Now we're ready to grow some pot. So that pot is now put in from the IP, which is the seed. Oh crap, I didn't even mention that thing and bring that home. I have to bring that home for just a minute. Simply because cannabis is still a Schedule 1 substance, you are not allowed to have patents on it. So all the cool plant patents, like, did you know, maybe like the coolest plant patent ever, the Honeycrisp apple? Oh my God, you didn't know the Honeycrisp apple was patented? Let me take this is going to require some La Croix berry flavor to the head. Yeah, so what happened was in 1991, the United States, not the United States, just the state of Minnesota, actually patented Honeycrisp apples because they made them up. And I ate one yesterday. It was fucking awesome. Can't do that necessarily with marijuana, as they do all these different crosses and strains and then create new types of marijuana or cannabis that had never existed before. There's entirely cool and new properties unique to that particular strain, like they did with the Honeycrisp apple. Can't do that. So, before it's planted, it's basically going to have to be a farm product, but, I mean, still, what is a legal piece of collateral under the Uniform Commercial Code? You know, what right do you have in something that you have no right to have? Feeling very dude after that one. What right do you have in something you have no right to have? That's your collateral. And that's why I always advise my bank clients to value it at zip zero because it's illegal. Of course, if you're watching this in 2022, the Monsanto conversation applies, and then you've just planted IP rights. Knowing that it's illegal what they're doing, so in theory, any classification of this under the Uniform Commercial Code really can't be done. And so maybe you make no reference to it, and you just juice your interest rates. That's what the banks are doing. The 500 that are actually giving bank accounts to the $9 billion most legitimate cash-only industry in America. Let's make it just another American industry. You can do it. I see you right there, greedy banker. Yeah, man. Talk to me. So, this blanket security interest did apply to those IP rights. Now, with let's say that you're shut down because you're not paying your bills, and the bank has to liquidate all the collateral, and it comes down to that seed, and it is 2023, and marijuana can no longer be in the Schedule 1 substances, and so you can have a plant patent for marijuana. That seed will it's just the license. You didn't buy the seed. You can't look at it as seed. It's a general intangible. You bought the right to grow it. That's it. That's it. So you don't get the right to liquidate that seed, to replant it somewhere else. And so as the lender, you have more limited rights, or you have the rights that the borrower had in that seed. And the borrower had no right to sell that seed to somebody else. They had the right to grow it for that year and turn it into a farm product. And now, let's say we're just going to skip through all the germination. We're going to go straight to flowering, because isn't that the best time? You know, the lights change, things start to happen. It's the magic, you know? And so now we're into flowering. You have a farm product. Clearly, what happens after flowering? That's right, man. Time for some harvest. And now, something happens. It used to be a farm product. It used to be IP. It's still completely illegal, so it's nothing. But now it's going to become inventory, because you are going to manicure and transform the farm product. You've harvested it. And goes back to, we were talking about Farmer John's nuts and cannabis. So, he's processing his nuts. What the hell was this guy's name in Loyola? Spak! Professor Spak! Good guy. So anyway, Farmer John's nuts and cannabis is now processing the nuts and cannabis from their farm product state into an inventory state. And the inventory would be flour, it could be an edible, it could be a concentrate, and then you have your inventory and you go to the retail and you then get an account, right? And somebody gets a consumer good. Let me explain. The inventory is traded for cash because there ain't no credit cards in the legal marijuana industry yet. There should be. And so that now goes into an account, right? You have the cash and the customer has the inventory, which to them is not inventory. It is a consumer good. And they take it home as that consumer, legally, mostly. Jeff Sessions ain't going to stop you. So this is how marijuana is treated under the Uniform Commercial Code. How do we value it as collateral? As I sit here in 2018, it do not exist. So if you are lending to a marijuana business, do not value that marijuana collateral. Cannabis worth zero. If you're watching this in 2023 and marijuana and cannabis are now out of the Controlled Substances Act, I would still be careful. Let me tell you why. It has to do with what we discussed earlier, the IP. IP would now be in play, and so it's not as fungible as Justice Scalia would have us believe in the rate. Oh, that'll be a different video. You don't want to value it at zero because of it being not transferable. You want to value it at zero because it's also licensed by the state. You don't have the right as the lender to sell marijuana out the back. You need to have the button. You need to have, not, and by button I mean taxi button. It is the right to be able to sell the good. So the states license your marijuana laws, and only those people that have the appropriate license can deal in that particular inventory, farm product, good. If we're just going to look at it as fungible, like Justice Scalia would say, we would just look at it as the basic good. That is another reason to value the marijuana at zero, is because even if you take the collateral back, it's worth nothing to you. So value it at zero. You got the cash flow, great. You can see what the cash flow is. Now maybe another thing you do to value to help reduce the risk about having no collateral base. So you have, it's kind of like a service industry then, lending to a service industry. If that key person who's providing the service is gone, the cash flow is gone, everything's gone. I mean, it's not really anything you can point to as collateral, like equipment, or as an insurance receivable, or an account, or something like that, and set off. You got to be careful about it. That's why you got to juice the interest rate. You're paying for your risk. At least you should be. Maybe you don't know me. My name is Tom, Cannabis Industry Attorney. If you want to know more, Google Tom Howard Marijuana. And next time, we're going to talk about something else.